Sometimes I wish everyone who listens to this show would watch us live because we just had a big old discussion between what is a diner and what is a restaurant. So if you'd like to join in on that, tune in live at some point.
Checkers floors. Check.
And welcome back to LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Streets of Rogue enters its final beta. Yeah, the one without the working Linux build. More on that at 11. And AMD has knocked $50 off of their Milkshake that NVIDIA will probably still drink.
Valve throws some shade at AMD and needs your help testing it. And Godot is still waiting on Vulkan, at least until October.
Valve gives us more CAD, this time for the VR bits, and NVIDIA continues to provide up-to-date Vulkan drivers, based on the prosperous long-lived branch.
Ow, Pedro. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm Old Man Vince Stone, joining you live here in Athens, spreading the distortion with the signals, with our Canadian correspondent, Jordan Swag. Look at him. It's beautiful.
Hello.
The tiles, they will never align. And Pedro Mateus.
When they do, the universe will end.
He's got a magical skill. That is Pedro Mateus from Britannia. Joining us, staying up not quite so late, because that's right, we're an hour early for the live listeners, people tuning in. Shadow Dynamic helping us down there, Form Cocaine Voltron. They're brilliant. We need to let's do faces like that for the YouTube thumbnail cover. We'll get 1 billion clicks and we'll make nothing.
I mean, it works for the Linux gamer, right?
Hey, man, I assume he's just got like headaches. He seems like a cool cat, just like his head hurts.
My head hurts.
So, before we get started, we do like to see what's going on in each other's lives, man. I joined in. You guys are rubbing off on me. I didn't write nothing down. Let's see. Did I do anything fun this week? I started going to the post office on the 4th of July. That was a brilliant move.
Yeah.
Just in case you had any illusions that I was moderately clever. Nay. Jordan.
Well, now that I have the Euphoria set up, I'm making good on my promise. I'm starting to practice playing bass again. Also fucking around with distortion effects, because that's always fun to do weird talky effects and then laugh as I pluck strings and they make different sounds than what I expect them to.
Get a chance to play with that on Thursday? You did your DN laser thing, D's.
I mean, that went reasonably well. That was all done through Jack, so that worked out.
Right.
Yeah. There's no real audio sync issues. I think I got that sorted out before we went live. And yeah, aside from the fact that I fucked up a couple calls jamming, that went reasonably well. Moral of the story, all the failures on this guy.
Yes.
Yeah, Pedro, what's up with your life? You buy anything new this week?
Nope.
Well, I did buy, or I thought I had bought myself another 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM from the Amazon warehouse, and I was looking at the description. It's like, okay, the packing is slightly damaged, but no other mentions of anything. So I get the package today, and I open it up, and inside the box that it came in was a Vengeance LPX.
It was a dimensionally compressed anvil.
No, it had it was a genuine Corsair Vengeance LPX box, but inside was 1.5 gigs divided between a 1 gigabyte DDR3 and a 512 meg DDR2 stick. So then I went to the post office over here, and it turns out that they close at noon on Saturdays. So yeah, I guess
on the 4th of July.
Wait. Yeah, no.
In England?
Apparently, the 6th of July is not a thing here in the UK. But yeah, apparently I'm going to have to wait till Monday so I can get my money back.
Hey, man, at least it's with Amazon. And, oh, yeah, we can't say that our Amazon affiliate links benefit us in any way. Wink.
They don't. They really don't. It's just Jeff Bezos.
Oh,
giving
man.
them some good
Do they
chuckles.
benefit the horse?
Of course not. The horse works for scale. It's the Steam Linux update of the week. Speaking of scaling down, looks like the hardware survey is giving some negative results.
A little bit, man. One thing we do always like to point out with the hardware and software survey, this is for June 2019, is it's RNG. It's RNG when it's good. It's RNG when it's bad. Right now, Linux makes up 0.76%, which is a little bit lower than it was. Not that much, though, right?
And also usership has dropped across the board too. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's not that there's less Linux users. It's just there are fewer users overall, and us being percentage of that, we shrink as well, like in the pool. I don't know. I got like 3 Steam surveys last month on 3 different computers. So I'm doing my part.
I honestly have
So
to
if we
just
see the Fedora kernel pick up, it's Jordan's fault.
It's not even that, man. You were playing around between boxes, though, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll trigger it. Man.
Yeah. I had to look through all of the stats, and both Mac and Linux dropped a little bit. Actually, like percentage-wise, given where they were to where they are now, it's about the same. It's just that if you take Windows into account, yeah, Mac had more users, so they lost a bit more. But the weird thing was 8 gigabytes of RAM seems to have gained some ground over 16 gigabytes. I thought we were, moving forwards, not backwards.
Somebody had to sell on laptops.
Yeah. The 1060 keeps slowly losing ground, but the 1050 Ti is gaining. The 2070 has a higher adoption than the 2060, which is the more affordable option. And on the CPU side, AMD lost 0.13% of the share, which seems to run contrary
NVIDIA?
to what everyone else is saying.
Dude, all right. The RTX 2060 is showing no information whatsoever. I have an issue with this, Valve.
Wait, are you mad that you didn't get 3 Steam hardware surveys, Ben?
I wanted. I apparently didn't, right? No one uses a 2060.
Apparently, I got Pedro's and Ven's, so...
Yeah, apparently.
Dude. Okay. Interesting news with the Valve Index. Not so much about... We already know it's going to have Linux support and all that, but Valve opening up a little bit of it.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's not the first time that they've done this, but this is the first time that they've done it for some of their VR stuff. They have released a bunch of blueprints or CAD files for working, basically building stuff and 3D printing your own stuff for their new VR Index and the Knuckles. So if you have, or even the lighthouses, if for some reason you feel like that needs some more things attached to it. And yeah, there's a face gasket. They have the base face gasket for the Index itself. They have a shell that's like a sleeve. That's the one right there if you're watching the video version.
Looks like
for
something
the
out of Final
Knuckle.
Fantasy, man.
It is.
Yeah, and you know what? All things considered, of all of the proposed CAD files that Valve have released for their equipment, it was like that backplate for the Steam controller that had the little holder for the
which
the
quite
dongle.
quite frankly should have been in the base. But we'll get to the Steam controller in a little bit.
Dude, I really want to go to like the local hardware, the big box hardware store, and be like, hey, what aisle can I find face gaskets on? And just see how long I can play that straight.
Well, but yeah, the little sleeve thing that they have for the knuckle, for someone like me who can't really hold that knuckle on his right hand, that could make it playable.
I think Pedro,
that structure is supporting that.
You need to get the bionic arm, is what you need. But I mean, makers, go forth and produce fucky Index accessories,
Toasters.
right? Like, they gave you the dimensions for the face mask, and they also tell you like, hey, don't put shit in these specific spots because these are where all the sensors are.
Do you think I could print out a George Foreman?
Well, that's the thing. Like I'm saying, in before sexy toaster face huggers
functional
and dildo controllers.
Functional George Foreman. I want to be the waffler IRL bitch.
I think you can do
Syrup of truth.
It also comes in a low fat variety.
Nice. All right.
But speaking of Steam controllers, we got some Booga Booga. This is from PC Games N. Links to all this stuff in our show notes by Carrie Talbot. And there's some patent documentation making the rounds for the Steam controller Mark II. The interesting thing here is it looks very, very similar to the. We only get a view of the back from the diagram. It looks so far fairly similar to the existing Steam controller. Although they fixed the battery thing, so you don't have to murder your thumbs anymore. That's nice. The other new addition is that they have a crush grip sensor now on the back paddles, which could be interesting for like racing games or all sorts of different fucky applications that. For I actually really like the back paddles, especially for platformers, because like it uses a different part of your brain to control that level of reflex. So it's easier to do like more complex combos, platforming combos. I don't know what you call them. Not falling into holes.
Do you know what I really like about the paddles?
What?
Remembering they're there.
Ooh.
I was like, oh wait, oh right. True story.
Yeah, the patent on the video and the one that they mentioned in the article, it only shows like the background. It's like, yeah, okay, there's a thing with the paddles, and there's like the force sensitivity with how hard you squeeze, but the squeezy bits are nice. I'm sure they're
the squeezy bits are nice, Pedro. The squeezy bits are nice.
In the case of the Steam controller specifically, I will say that their usefulness is questionable at best. But how about the front? Are we getting any changes in the front?
Okay, like if you're looking at that, the one thing we do need, 100%, is we need another analog on this. This is interesting. This is fun. It's great to fuck around with, but yeah, another analog stick and monster, put that thing down. How dare you in my presence? This is a Steam segment, not the PlayStation I will kill you too.
I want to fit in.
But 100% the batteries, because apparently Pedro's fall out, man. Pedro's Steam controller is very loose and easy.
You gotta get that battery lube.
Dude, I 100% with
like
mine
me.
to... Yeah, that doesn't happen with my Steam controller. I showed you guys like live, and you can take the back off, smack it, and it moves the battery about that much. Then you take the pry bar and dig it out, and eventually comes out. Jordan?
Oh no! If you just jam your thumb into the tab, it'll eventually pop out, right?
What, your thumb socket joint? What?
Yeah.
Dude, I would like to see that on the back. It probably would be. I understand why they put it there for size, but also for weight distribution.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but.
Also, let that thing be a fucking rechargeable battery controller. That would be the biggest improvement. That you could make.
Charge the batteries just by plugging in that micro USB cable. Come on.
I know it would add to the cost to put a charging circuit in there, but like a lipo gel pack, something. Yes, please.
Yes.
All right.
Well, AMD or not AMD or
yeah, sure.
Valve.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, AMD is doing something. They're releasing some hardware, and Valve is actually trying to make it usable.
It is the 7th here.
It is. But yeah. So there is a brand new shader compiler for AMD, brought to you by the lovely folks at Valve. This is the culmination of what happens when they bought out 50% of the Lunar G staff to work on Mesa improvements. They noticed that the LLVM shader compiler is not really targeted at gaming. It's more of a general use shader compiler, and as such, there are compromises that need to be made in order for it to support general use stuff. So they decided, we're going to make our own shader compiler with Blackjack and hookers. Enter ACO. Which is actually providing some promising initial results. The shader compiler won't necessarily result in more frames per second, but because it is cranking out compiled shaders faster, there will be less stuttering, there will be less hitching. Right now, they have it available for you to test. You can, if you're able to check out and build Mesa, or if you use Arch, then you can get the experimental RAD-V driver with ACO enabled by default. They're looking for the moment. Only RAD-V is enabled. So if you're going to be playing, really, if you're testing this on Linux, you're going to be playing a lot of wine games via DXVK, and they're showing some promising results. Some minor FPS gains on Strange Brigade, Total War, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Doom.
We were talking a little
And
earlier in the pre Super shows and about, you brought up a very good point. I mean, this is a very interesting, now, if you're looking for a Tinkertron device, the new AMD cards, the Navi-based GPUs, it's like, that's very enticing if you're looking for something to do.
I mean, also, they're saying that this is just the initial work. They have only the first stage of shader compilers done. They're expecting to see some more substantial gains when they complete the other shader compile steps, which may, with Navi's touted improved Vulkan performance, may result in some actually sizable performance gains for Wine under Linux. They are saying though that only Radeon SI is currently supported, so I'm not sure if Navi will be included in that level of support. But they're going to be continuing developing this, and they want feedback. So give it to them.
Yeah, and they do say like the graphics that they show on the post. They say, "Oh, someone turned on their Steam controller."
Guilty.
They do say that these are the ones that they tested that showed actual like performance gains in their testing.
They also didn't say what they tested them on, so you know.
Yeah, yeah. We don't know what GPU they were using to test this, but yeah, getting RAD-V up to snuff is a very good thing in my book. As someone, well. When I built the Steambox 360, the RAD-V driver was in a very poor shape, to the point where the Talos principal was running like absolute poop. Oh wait, this isn't Wednesday. It was running like shit when I compared it to the OpenGL renderer. So yeah, no, by all means, keep improving RAD-V. We kind of need that.
It's already pretty good because like DXVK is targeting it.
Yeah.
All like what do you call it? Sirius is targeting that, and yeah, as someone with a bunch of AMD GPUs now, I am pro this, very very much pro this. Then I guess Pedro takes the lead for this story, but you're playing this on Friday.
Yeah, I actually played it, but go ahead, Pedro.
Yeah, so this is Supraland, and I saw this in the show notes. It's like, ooh, that looks pretty. They have a Linux version now. That's neat. The game came out originally April 5th, 2019. So I decided, you know what, let's shoot them an email. Send them, saying that we're interested. We'd very much like to throw our review chairs at it. And, you know, they read the email and they did the thing and they sent us 3 keys over the Curator Connect bits. So thank you very much for that. It's, you're playing as Plasticine Dude.
Demo. Free demo. Go get it right now. Quit listening to Pedro.
Yeah, you can totally download the demo and just try it for yourself. I did see a bit of Ven stream, but, well, why not let Ven talk about it? Tell us about it.
Wait, the hell, man? The hell? Are you going to throw me under the bus?
You're the one who played it.
Jeez. I did. I streamed it last night. We were going to continue on with Wolf Exploitation. That'll return next week. 2 things. Cloud saves and the Linux port. Let's try it out. I tried it out on our slightly underpowered, out-of-date 1920X Threadripper with a anemic 2060. It's Unreal Engine 4. This is why I'm always curious when I see these types of games, because Unreal Engine 4, we said multiple times on this show, bad track record. Now, if you know what you're doing and you're going to pay attention to it and make it work right, it can be brilliant under Linux. Most of the time, Part B never happens. Technically, no issues with this game whatsoever. However, on the 2060, running the latest Vulkan 418 drivers from NVIDIA, it was averaging at 1080p. You can go back and watch the video between 45 and 50. Mind you, a very smooth 45 to 50. And I did see in the forums, it was like, hey, it's got a chuggy on Linux, and the developers like, well, I believe it's CPU limited. That's why I superimposed a top with 24 fucking threads running on the video. If you would like to see,
it's single threaded limited.
It wasn't even maxing out a single 3.7 gigahertz thread. Sitting there going,
It's because you need to enable, or you need to disable all those spectrum notifications.
They are, baby. They are. It's kind of a fun game. You could probably play around with the settings and like lower them to. I mean, honestly, here's the. I hate saying this. if you run it with Proton, it will take advantage, because it's a DX11 game, you can take advantage of Vulkan and like run it at 90 to 100 frames a second.
Multi-core rendering.
Yeah.
Shock.
That's the thing. I think it's currently on sale right now. It is marketed as kind of a sandbox. We believe the player is intelligent, so figure it out your damn self. So if you want to watch an hour of me failing at that, go ahead. It's there. It's at LinuxGameCast.com.
Okay.
First-person Zelda Metroidvania type of situation. Okay.
No, that has nothing to do with Planet Explorers.
you know it does. Apparently, leaving all your code on the production server as your only source of truth.
They lost all the data bits, and yeah, they've come up with, their words, not mine, a final solution, which is basic. Yeah, right. To fuck off with anything you had online. But hey, as a reward for you buying the game and supporting us, it's now free for everyone else. Sure to endear everyone. Yeah, they cocked up and they didn't have a backup, and so that part of the game's dead. You can now play for free in Forever Alone mode. Now, we did actually manage to get some multiplayer out of this. There's a video of it somewhere.
Yep.
We threw chairs at this even.
Very generic. Pedro, you said you kind of liked it.
Yeah, I kind of liked it just because it's one of those games that drops you into the world and they give you missions, but clearly the focus here is on you going out and seeing for yourself. And the crafting system in the game is not what you usually get with your Minecraft clones and everything else. They actually have a little design tool that allows you to create
That hurts
stuff.
a little more. This was an early access project, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it
Ooh.
was. It was in early access for over a couple of years, actually. And eventually, it was when it was released that we threw chairs at it. And like the design tool that they have, it lets you design the items you want to create, and then it'll figure out, okay, so if you want to have this item, you'll need these materials to build it. And then you can basically use whatever items you create right there, and it allowed everyone to share that when the multiplayer was working. But since the multiplayer is gone now,
Pedro, if you don't let Jordan talk over you, he's going to explode, man. He's vibrating right now. He's dying. He's like, I want to talk over.
Kill me, please. No, what I was gonna say is, like, it's actually a bit more monster hunter-y than Minecraft-y at some points, especially because you have to like kill monsters for their drops. But like the big thing here is like how they actually lost their multiplayer code, because apparently their multiplayer server died, and that had all their code on it, and so they say that they will look at open sourcing Planet Explorers as an option to see if anyone can reverse engineer the multiplayer code, because apparently they're hoping that the community is smarter than they are.
What do you think the under and over is? This is a way of them piecing out with a bunch of extra steps.
I don't know. They're like, oh, we're going to do a Planet Explorers too.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, they can do that, but hey, now they don't have to maintain servers.
True.
I don't think the game was that popular.
Yeah,
exactly. Costing more money to maintain the servers, though. I mean, you get what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, sorry, lost the code for that. There was no replication, even at the host.
Yeah. No, the moral of the story here is store your code in Git and then take regular backups of said Git.
Yeah. How do you keep everything in one server? I think I built like three pieces
Pedro
of
has the right
standalone
idea.
software.
He's helping my conspiracy theory. Keep going.
No, I over the course of many years, mostly because I hate programming, I think I developed a total of 3 different pieces of software, and the most popular one was just a teeny tiny little HTML gadget for Windows 7 that played radio directly from your desktop.
As much as it pains me to admit this, Strider kind of has a very it's like, what? They didn't have a local copy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you have everything in one place?
See, I've actually played that game before. Our Git server went down, and I had to go figure out who in the development staff had the most up-to-date local copy of the repository, and then try and rebase everyone else's code on that. That was a fun exercise in
yeah. Don't envy that. All right. Streets Rogue, we talked about it. I think it was recently in a Humble not too long ago. They've announced a final beta. This is like, whoa, what? I thought they were going to put some more development in it, but the game releases out of early access on the 12th of July. Looking forward to playing it. It's going to be on everything. It's a pretty interesting game. I enjoyed, like last year, I think it might have been last summer, they had like a timed free early thing that I played around with it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I want to play around with it. But I'm going to say, I don't know. Tell me if I'm out of line when I'm saying this. Is maybe have a working Linux client? Question mark.
That would be a start.
I don't know if Street Rats don't need to have a working Linux version. I don't see why Streets of Rogue needs to have.
I have been accused on more than one occasion of being an entitled Linux user, and when I say working, I mean it does launch a blue screen that has a cursor you can move around on it. So I guess maybe it does work. There's one way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Isn't this the one that I added in the prefs file and it started working for me?
This is the way to make... No, this does have online multiplayer. This is why it's going to be kind of interesting. Right now, if you launch it basically on anything except, I think Ubuntu 12.04 is what the developer box. Because I've been to the forums to the point to irritated me where the developer was like, not broke here, it won't fix. He even links to another customer, because that's what these people are, customers who have bought the game. He's like, well, if you just add, your basic run-of-the-mill, screen width, height, full screen, set that option to 1, because of the Unity joint. I don't know what he did that cocked this up. Even I am not game developer, dude. That does work, but dude, would you ship the Windows client like that? You fucking wouldn't. All right.
All right. Well, on that bombshell, coming up next, we talk about brand new NVIDIA drivers for once in a blue moon. And also, do you feel super? I feel super. I feel super duper.
Thanks for asking.
Sometimes I wish everyone who listens to this show would watch us live, because we just had a big old discussion between what is a diner and what is a restaurant. So if you'd like to join in on that, tune in live at some point.
Checkered floors! Checkered floors!
Height stools, man. We're trying to sell ourselves to people right now. You're not helping. You were not helping, Pedro.
Oh, no, I thought that was a good one.
We don't have to sell ourselves to the 114 beautiful party people making this show possible. Thank them if you're not a Patreon, because they are keeping it loud, live, independent, and commercial free, kicking us $264 for not just this show, but for Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. They got a couple of bonus things for them. We got early access to our show notes, Discord. We got a thing where we're hanging out the other 6 days of the week. We got some early unlocks, so that's kind of fun, and we do that for you. We don't like throwing anything behind a paywall, but we do need to thank long-time Patreon has increased his pledge. Dak, Nehemiah. That's the
Nemo. Dak Kresny in Discord.
I like how we always do different things. I was like, I read the name and I was like, it's Dak. And you're like, Nemo.
Well, because he's got three. It's like the triple tetragrammaton or whatever. Mm-hmm. We also got to thank J Girl.
J Girl. Oh, J Girl's new. So Pedro, we need one accurate. We need 1.5 facts for J Girl.
Let's see. J Girl's name is very similar to Jill's, and they probably know each other.
J Girl.
Yeah.
That's your half fact right there.
Yeah, that's your half fact.
Her name is Jurl from the planet.
This is a new thing. If you become a new Patreon, Pedro has to give 1.5 facts.
Hey, Pedro, you got a new present thanks to the person who's buying up our entire studio space.
Oh man,
apparently.
You mean the beast? He's back there taking up Frank's fuck wall.
He's a fuck
Mike
machine,
G,
man.
It's basically the MikeG wall at this point, because he saw that I added the Corsair M55 RGB Pro to my wish list, and he said, "You know what? I'm gonna buy you that."
Now, my favorite part, anything that shows up from a wish list gets to include a little piece of paper that we have to read, and you get to abuse it because you have to read it, Pedro. I don't care what horrible, nasty things he said.
I kind of wanted horrible, nasty things, but instead he said, it was your guest appearance on another Linux podcast that led me to this train wreck.
Ooh, sick burn.
Thanks for everything you do.
Raining fire, spitting mad fire, one MikeG.
So, yeah, MikeG, thank you very much. And I don't know how you came here from my appearance in Linux for the rest of us.
It was a dare.
Because that was basically 3 hours of me talking shit.
No, I don't think. I think he's the only one, even including the host. He's the only one who's heard the entire thing because I watched George zone the hell out. I know I did.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, MikeG.
Look at the bright side. At least you didn't correct him in the middle of an ad.
Yeah.
I don't take that as a negative. I really don't.
Oh, great, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you're happy with it. Oh, a couple of people spoke. I got like a 5-person rule with a lot of stuff like Bitcoin stuff. If I get bugged by 5 people, I'm like, fine, we'll do it. This isn't new, but it's back again. We have the LibrePay thing set up because if you get confused, you're like, we've been a member for 2 years, but
we make no money.
Yeah. It's now an option. They had an issue last year where their payment processor told them to die in a fire, and so I went back and set all that up. There. Are you happy now? Grr. No, but seriously. Thanks everybody kicking in through PayPal. The links that happen to be on the page that rhyme with Gramanom that we can't say or whatever, but they totally...
It's because they totally don't help us do this?
We do have one last thing we got to plug, though.
What?
It's the store. Store.linuxgamecast.com. Buy some t-shirts. Buy a mug. Buy a mouse pad. Buy some stickers.
I keep forgetting. I sometimes do. We have on the store.
If you really like your mayo and you really like to confuse everyone around you.
Dude, I got a long... Well, yeah, it's a little hot to wear it right now. But
it is genuinely too hot for Twitch.
It's a little bit warm. Speaking of Twitch, man, we have that. It's like right below the video right there for the t-shirts and stickers and shit. That's beautiful. Thanks everybody who is spreading the word, and that's really the most important thing you can do, man. Tell your cats, tell small animals about LinuxGameCast. Retweet the shit out of this or something. I don't know.
Just burst into like a preschool classroom and scream, "Go watch LinuxGameCast!" I'm sure.
DM your alt account.
Yes, artificially inflate our numbers. What?
Russian bot farms. Yo, turn your eye over.
You always pay for this, and that's we do have some couple of things. I'm actually looking. I haven't even discussed it with these two. I have a new show idea that might be something to look at, and I know that's the look of worry. So stay tuned for that. Okay, as is tradition.
Vulkan drivers.
Yes. So we start off with some NVIDIA drivers for the news this week. And this one, it's not like the fancy new stuff. This is the Vulkan driver. And this is usually geared at developers. But ever since Proton became a thing and Vulkan becomes very important, a lot of people are actually running these drivers, myself included. And with this version that was released on July 1st, that's the Linux version 4.18.52.14, they have introduced 4 new one Linux specific Vulkan extensions, and they fixed the...
You're not getting away with that, man. You said 4 new one Linux specific extensions. My brain just had a seizure.
There were implied parentheses there, but whatever.
The Linux exclusive one is like remarkably boring too. It's just like if you have multiple time domains, you can get like a synchronized clock between them. The one interesting Vulkan extension that comes with this driver batch is the VKEXT full screen exclusive, which can let you bypass compositing for improved full screen performance. But if it'll eat shit if you alt tab, so
pretty much.
Hi, Doom.
And they also improved compatibility with the recently released Linux kernels. So if you're running the 5.2, is it still release candidate or is it officially out now?
A 5.1.15 stable. That's what I'm running right now.
Okay, because the 5.2s, they were on release candidates not too long ago, and I'm not sure if they've been released.
I'm not a diner patron. Don't argue with me.
The moral of the story: install kernel 2.4.27, and you'll be fine.
Hey, look, they've made another point release. I guess it's 16 today. Neat. I'm glad they did this, so I could finally update from because the Spectre mitigation stuff with the 5.150, what was it, 14 or 15 it started with? It might have been
14.
13. Where you can just do the one line. It was like Stufel.
That's
Yeah.
in 5.2. I think that's
That's in 5.2 and 15.
Yeah, it's in 15.
okay, cool.
Yay! I knew a thing. All right. NVIDIA is super, and they thank you for asking. Buy their shit. That's what they're saying. Not me. I've already drank the Kool-Aid. It's too late for me. Best in class performance, ray tracing. I'm just saying you should have went with Frank tracing. It would have been bony, but hey man, skeletal animations are important too.
Draw me like one of your French skeletons.
Exactly, man. So we got a 2060 Super that's better, instead of 192, 256-bit memory bus, it's got a full 8 gigajoules of memory RAM. It's using a cut down 2070 CPU. The 2070 Super is a cut down 2080. They're better. That's pretty. Oh, and they have a mirror finish. So if that
Actually, the Super 2070 is the 2080.
it's
using the
slightly
exact
cut
same
down.
GPU.
It's nerfed a bit. It is nerfed a bit.
Yeah, it is nerfed a bit because they kind of had to, but yeah, it's using the exact same GPU family.
Well, you see, this is
They
like the
have
really,
one fewer gig array. One fewer gig array.
really important thing because we have to thank NVIDIA for getting to the point where you're fucking competing against yourself. I mean,
pretty much.
well done. And they did this. I don't know if it was a knee-jerk reaction, but I think it was definitely it's in competition, grandkids. NVIDIA wanted to make sure that AMD didn't sell anything, so let's roll out the Super and just weird naming, whatever. It could be a good deal. I mean, if you like the 2070 Super, I was like, that's an interesting piece of kit because that's the performance at still more than I'd like to pay for it, but a lot more. If you're getting 2080 performance for $499, you kind of have my attention, right?
That was like the 980 pricing territory. So
Right.
that's like at the top end of reasonable.
Pretty much, man. It's like you could bullshit your way into buying that at some point.
So, but here's the thing. In Canada, though, multiply these prices by 1.5 times, and all of a sudden, I've made up my mind. Stick with my 1080 Ti until the next couple of years.
You poor baby, how you live, man. I think I'm gonna make do with my 2060 for a little while longer. Here's the thing.
You say that in a year, we'll see.
I did not qualify that within a year. All right, I don't know. I'm gonna say this. AMD walked out yesterday. Because tomorrow, all the new hotness, the Navi hotness from them, it's going to be rolling out. And NVIDIA's like, and I was kind of along with everyone else for the pricing for, what is it, the XT?
Yeah, it's the 5700, RX 5700, RX 5700 XT, and the Radeon, the 5700 XT anniversary edition.
Super thanks for asking, basically.
This is why you got to be careful online because everybody's like, well, I would have bought it if it was like $50. Well, guess what? They're all $50 less now.
Yep.
I mean, between this and ACO and all the DXVK shit happening, as a Linux user, you may take another sniff at picking up an AMD card.
You're still paying $330 MSRP with a $50 off.
Even at $50 off, it's like it's true to what AMD said when if you follow what they're like, this isn't meant to compete with high end. This is mid range shit that we got right now.
Yeah, but you're still paying 2060 price for something that the 2060. For the most part, especially when it comes to games, it curbs up and down the straight.
The 2060 Super is the same price as the 2060 was.
Yes. So that's even worse.
I mean, that's the card you want to buy right now is the 2060. I mean, if you want to buy AMD, support AMD. You can't really, even at $50 off, price performance.
Yeah. Like I said, if you do a lot of wine gaming, there's a lot of compelling stuff for the AMD side.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, but then again, Scott, you got a point. The 2080 Ti with the Titan, but they better call the 2080 Super like the 2080 Super Duper, or the Titan the Super Duper.
The 2080 Super basically performs on par with the 2080 Ti, so it's like.
And I'm going to say, here's my thing. I don't know. Everyone's got their own opinion with this. I'll just speak for me. Once I'm over the $300 mark, $50 plus or minus, that's not factoring in if I got to pay $50 more or something, it's going to happen once you're past that 300 threshold. I mean, if you're doing the $299 and below $50, all right, that can affect your build one way or the other. But I think is that about right?
I would
400 for me. I refuse to spend more than 400 of local currency.
I would just like to say I'd like to see a little more aggressive competition on like the mid lower end, because I think that's where most of the people who are actually buying GPUs are. So it'd be interesting to see some like seeing what you can squeeze out at that price point.
Well, I was talking to someone on Twitter back and forwards, I think today, and they said, hey man, well, this person was like, well, just wait, the perpetual just wait. And everyone was like, well, you're never going to buy anything anyway. When it comes down to, like, I think, believe exactly what I'm forgetting your name. I'm sorry. I'm a jackass for that. Is in the next couple of months, they're going to release some lower end Navi stuff. I'm like, you know what? They're probably just going to keep selling the 580 because that's like $130 card right now.
Yeah.
It's an 8 gig card.
That's a good price performance thing.
Yeah, if you want a Tinker toy, buy a 580 or 590.
That's what I mean, that's what I did.
Right. That makes sense.
Godot. They have some updates for Porvu. This progress report from Juan. He's working on their Vulkan implementation. And as it turns out, Vulkan does things a little differently than OpenGL, so there may be a little API breakage for Godot 3.2, but he's learning stuff. He's in the process of getting all the boilerplate in and creating a system so that you can have fine-grained control over your Vulkan objects and still have a stable enough base that you can, if you have no Vulkan experience, you can just kind of get stuff up and running. They're expecting to have something workable by the end of October, so that's good. And it's open source, so you should support their Patreon and, use them, file bug reports, improve it, because it improves it for everyone.
Yeah, and as it turns out, implementing Vulkan at the engine level is a lot more involved than it was with OpenGL, because with OpenGL, you could just implement the base, and everything else was kind of already there. And if people wanted specific things, they could just do that themselves. If you're trying to create an engine like Godot is, that attempts as hard as it can to make it as easy as possible for the game developer or whoever happens to be using it at the time to just have the Vulkan advantages without having to put in all of the extra work, then that work still needs to be done. And it's now being done by Juan Linietsky, lead developer at Godot. And yeah, that's, I'm guessing that's the bit that they sort of kind of skipped in Unity, because that Vulkan implementation's a bit rough.
Is it?
Well, I think that's actually what they're trying to do. They're just not doing that great a job just yet.
Yeah,
they're making the right steps. They're getting to it, because if you would ask me this time last year, because you're like, hey, GODOT, what do you want to call yourself this week? What do you think about Vulkan? And they were like, OpenGL ELS,
Microsoft
bitches.
paid us $20,000. Go away.
OpenGL, what the fuck? But they've changed, and that's good. They were going to have to do this eventually, because your engine has to support Vulkan. Welcome to 2019, rolling into 2020. DX12 turns out not the future, brah. Neither is OpenGL. So good on them. And I'm glad. It's not going to be easy. Hell no. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But they are doing the good work, man. Right, Jordan?
To your point, Ven, the reason they got on the Vulkan train was because of Valve, because they pumped a bunch of money into the development of Molten VK, so now you can actually run Vulkan on iDevices. That was the big stopping point for Godot. So again, this is where your 30% is going. Developers,
nope, don't care.
Better tools.
Better tools.
Basically,
we're making
giving
the
you
show
an
an Epic
exports without
exclusive.
you having to do a damn thing.
Indeed.
All right.
Daggerfall Unity is also a thing. They're not quite as insane as the Open Morrowind people, but they're still a little
There's
fucking
a special
insane.
blend of insanity to do it with Unity, man. I mean,
Like I said, they're not as insane. They're still pretty fucking insane, but they're not as insane. But they have some June builds available for you. Lots of improvements. Lots of quality of life stuff for the mapping systems. Nystol, who also incidentally produces my least favorite magical aura, did a bunch of work on the interior map to improve, to add like notes, use the 3D mode by default, better performance. The external map has things so you can add notes now, better fast travel. Lots of stuff to improve the quality of life for those who still want to play Daggerfall. And yeah, the guards will now get mad at you if you walk into someone's house uninvited, which is something that a lot of games don't actually do. You can just like walk into people's homes and ransack them, and they won't give a shit.
I mean, what happens if I spank their chicken?
You die.
This isn't Skyrim, so you could probably get away with it.
Listen, man, I was renowned for my chicken spanking abilities in Skyrim.
Hashtag chicken spanking, ladies and gentlemen.
It's gonna make sure it's happening.
There's actually a sizable changelog here if you want to go through it. The links to that are
That's pretty massive. That game, I remember I just had a flatmate that played that, and it's like, you got to get into this. And like, I'll never get. It turns out, never got into that. So.
It still is one of like the biggest maps in gaming in terms of like surface area.
That was his thing. It was like the one thing he could. And he's like, I got to make a game. The internet barely worked back in these days. Get off my lawn. And that was his logic of spending. I think it was like 45, 50 pounds he spent on it. He's like, this is gonna last. And apparently, people are still getting some traction from it.
Because the game map was huge.
The nice thing about this engine reimplementation too was that Daggerfall is free. They make it. I think it's Obsidian makes it freely available. You can download it off the Elder Scrolls website or Bethesda. Yeah, and yeah, you can just play. You can just play it as is. You don't need to go and buy shit from GOG. It's pretty nice.
Hey man, Doom.
Indeed. Yeah. So, if you were confused because you thought that maybe you stumbled upon Doom Reborn's ModDB page, and you thought, wait a second, didn't that get a DMCA or a takedown notice by Bethesda themselves? Speaking of, it's like no, that one was called Doom Remake. Oh, I'm sorry, Doom and a mod that starts with the letter R. But no, this is Doom Reborn, and it is a total conversion mod for Doom 3. And basically what they want to do is let you play the Doom and Doom 2 campaigns in the Doom 3 engine, which is very nice. And it's something I wish that more modding teams would do. It's like, okay, so we have a new version of the engine. It works all right now, so let's just make that happen and bring the old campaigns to the new engine. I'm always a big fan of that. Like that mod for Skyrim, Skywind. I still want to play that at some point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Daggerfall.
It's Doom Reborn. It doesn't really have a Linux version, right, Ven? It's at least I didn't
go
see
build
one.
it yourself, scrub.
Yeah, no, I did look at the files. It's like, where's the Linux version?
I just wanted to bring some attention to this because the idea of using the what ID Tech engine, well, the Doom 3 engine, everyone knows it, the flashlight engine, walk backwards into doors engine with a flashlight on, hasn't really been used for much outside of what what's it called?
Dark mod.
Dark Project.
It was ID Tech 4.
For legal reasons, not Thief mod. That one. I want to see other projects using it, and using it to remake the original Doom, I think, is a bit brilliant. And the source is available. This is their first standalone version, and it's only available for Windows. But it might be something for an enterprising old graybeard, a young lad, to get into and be like, hey, man, we can get this up and running on Linux. I didn't get a chance to play around with it, but GitHub is available. It is there, and it's definitely worth giving a look at because a lot of work's went into this.
Indeed. Although I will say, looking at some of those screenshots, all I can think of is needs more ray tracing.
Dude. You've seen what Quake 2 did to your 1080 Ti.
I want to
There
see
won't be
worse.
anything left.
Worse.
No.
Speaking of worse, speaking of worse, coming up next, we're gonna go to another world and not jump on things because we may get stuck on some rocks, and then we'll have to restart our game. And welcome back to the CHAIRQASITION. This is where we take the accused and put them to trial against Fedora, Solus, and Fedorf. Then, only then, the question may be asked. Is it fun? This week we're taking a look at the signal from Tölva from Big Robot Limited. It's done under Unity. You can pick it up for about 20 of your local wet currency. It's $30 if you're in Canada, because fuck Canada. The signal from Tölva is an open-world first-person shooter set in a distant, haunted future world. Unlock savage weapons, recruit robots to fight alongside you as rival factions struggle to discover the source of the mysterious signal. What you discover will decide the fate of a world. Aldius bought us some copies, so we got to thank him very much for that.
Aldius.
Yeah. If you want to send us some keys, you know, there's a segment for that coming up, so stay tuned. So let's get started. How'd it work on Fedora, old Ven Stone?
It's not Fedora, man. Quit calling it Fedora.
It's Fedorf.
It's Fedorf, baby. It's like normal Fedora, but it's after I get a hold to it and I rip out parts and I kind of make it look a little more like Synth so I can make some other shit run. Then I fuck with the kernel and make it the latest and greatest for other reasons. But Fedorf Core 1 is running on 1920X, Threadripper, 32 gigajoules of RAM, powered by 2060, displayed by a shit ton of monitors. A couple of them are UHD. No technical issues. This is an Unreal Engine 4 game, right? Or,
Unity.
Oh, it is Unity. Wow, that's even worse. Ooh, extra hatred for this. It launches, man. There's no technical issues. You can get in-game reliably. Nothing to say there. Performance-wise, at 1080p, that's something we test across the board. It's Badsville here in 2060 land, kids. It is, I'm looking at like 20 to 40 native, and that's for the OpenGL render. If I kick over with a Proton with a DX11 rendered utilizing DXVK DixVix, kind of get to 60 sometimes. I'm not the only one in that boat. Reading through the forums, there are people who have said on multiple occasions that sometime last year this game took a big performance hit, and some of them just quit playing. They're like, peace out. Anyway, look at the graphics. They're there in front of you. It's meh, but it's working meh. I always appreciate that. It doesn't look bad. It's not poorly done. It's not, store-bought asset pack or anything like that. Did feel like the intro was kind of a bit of a lead up for me. It's like, oh, this is going to be awesome. This is very cinematic. And it kind of drops you into an empty world with shit like sprinkled around. I was like, oh, man, that was a hard sell. Controls is WASD. It's a shooter. Well, it tries to be. More on that in the fun section. But clean bill of health, solid 4 chairs on Fedora.
Yeah, on Fedora, which is just fairly stock Fedora, 3064-bit with the i7-6700K GTX 1080 Ti. Yes, it does launch when you click play. Performance at 1080p, it holds about 80 frames a second on 1080p high. Don't try to play this on UHD though. I was wondering why the hell this game is running like such butt, and then I thought to myself, wait, I didn't fuck around with the video settings. Yeah, knocking it on UHD low, it gets about 40 frames a second for me. So that's fun. Graphics wise, it's like an entire world of HK-47s from, Knights of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2. And all the characters look like they're straight out of that game as well. Everything looks fine, but it's for a game that came out so recently, it is a little old looking. And controls, like Dead Island, for whatever reason, they decided to make E melee and FUs, but you can rebind everything. So I'll give it 4 chairs.
Yep.
Perdo.
And over here in Solus Land, it launches just fine. The performance in UHD, yeah, it was really bad. Lowering it to 1440p, got it stable in and around 60. It still dipped to like the low 50s, but at 1080p, it was just fine. It actually works just fine, even if you crank everything else up. The graphics, I think the Flying Spaghetti Monster, they included the option to disable the camera sway and the camera bobbing, because that was annoying. That was really annoying at first. And then I realized, oh, wait a second, they have an option for this. Disable. There we go. And the controls, well, you can rebind everything. So, yeah, it works okay here. 4 chairs.
Okay. Did it leave any folders in your home directory, Pedro?
Nope. It is
Damn.
a Unity game. You have to go out of your way
Damn.
for a game to do that.
All right.
Don't give them ideas.
Ven, do you have fun? Signal Tölva?
I always have fun. At least I had as much fun as this game would allow. There's a whole lot of fuck all to do, combined with sporadic gunplay, and that gunplay, it's just bad. I didn't like it. I didn't like the feel of it. I'm not hating on the game. Well, I kind of am. You're going to run around. You're going to collect shit. You're going to buy new guns that are virtually indistinguishable from the guns that you already have. It's like a new skin pack for them. I was about an hour in. I found a few checkpoints, killed a few like groups of robots. Have no indication that things are going to get better or more interesting because like all of the lore is like dropped to you in like little data pods of text. And it's like, oh, it's a bad sign. I don't like using this word. I use it sparingly, but you're going to have a hard time disagreeing with the fact that it's a walking simulator and it also has really bad gunplay. It is like when you're shooting things, there's no, Pedro always says like kickback and stuff like that. That's legit. You want to feel like you actually shot something. This is like you laser tickled things and eventually they explode. And on top of that, there's no penalty for death aside from more walking. The game is like, yes, that's your punishment. You have to walk longer because there's like a 4-hour game here that's been stretched to like 9 because walking slowly. And the performance, at least for whatever, on my 2060, on my old anemic thread-ripping system, is only rivaled by the speed of smell. Now, if I mix that with a big empty spaces and that slow-moving character, for me, I just had a big recipe I do not want. I want to thank Aldius for allowing me to give you my opinion of this game. And honestly, guys, I genuinely do wish that it was like I was the only one with performance issues. But I'm not. But then again, I don't have big honking 1080s. So, Jordan?
Well, over here in big honkin' 1080 land, this game is actually kind of relaxing for me. You wander around, find money, capture points, scan shit to unlock gear and dudes you can bring along, so you can find more stuff to get more money. It is a chill enough loop that I found myself kind of getting into it. I do wish though, like, and a lot of my complaints about like the fun portion of the game, the actual gameplay itself, is that you're not particularly mobile. You have this great sci-fi setup where you're controlling remote bodies, which is a trope that I absolutely love in science fiction, mind you. But you don't feel like you're a badass robot. You kind of just feel like you're, I don't know, a fat kid running around trying to collect stuff.
I will say, if I can real quick, I think it would be an accurate representation of what it would be like to be tied into a physical robot. Boring as hell.
Nah. But yeah, like I kind of wish there was more of an emphasis on the exploration side, because everything is kind of linear. It's open, but it all funnels you towards the same place. I wish there were a lot more mobility options, because you have a robot suit. You could like have a jetpack or rocket jumps or all sorts of random shit. And considering how slow you move and how big the maps are, some sort of advanced traversal would be nice. The gunfighting kind of reminds me of Verdun in that like it's a lot of iron sighting. There's a lot of slogging and a lot of just like you have to sort of plan your engagements ahead. And I actually kind of like the Metal Gear Solid 5 scouting thing, where you can scout out enemy camps, see how many enemies there are, and then just like have permanent track of them. That kind of stuff is pretty neat. But again, kind of wish you had some more advanced movement stuff to take advantage of it. The enemy factions things is also pretty cool. There are 3 teams on the planet, and they will attack each other if they run into each other, which is kind of neat. I like games that put that in there because it spices up some of the conflict, gives it a bit of an edge. But yeah, this really this game needs more content and a fuckier map, because I get frustrated not being able to jump with their crappy jump and getting stuck on things and being unable to cheese my way up mountains. But you know what? Exactly, right? I want that where you can like, hey, what's this cave? Oh, this is the end of a dungeon. Well, can I go in at reverse? Yes, I can. Oh, look, here's all the treasure. And here's the boss I was supposed to fight to get it.
Can I ask you a question, both of you? What do you think about the reload mechanic? Because I was irrationally angry at the.
It's annoying because it always takes the same time, regardless of how many shots you took.
Right, you take one
But
shot,
it's just
and you're like,
recharging an energy
empties,
weapon.
Then it
Right,
redoes
right.
the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoever designed that charging circuitry can die in a fire.
Well, it's a stat thing too, because reload time is a thing that the better weapons have like a lower amount of. But again, but Ven, you bring up a good point. All the weapons are kind of similar, stats wise they're different, but Borderlands did a decent job of like differentiating all the various types of weapons so that they all seemed interesting. This game could have used a little bit of that. I'll give it 3 chairs. I think it's enjoyable enough. What about you, Pedro? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a game about meandering about and sometimes getting marked when the AI is bored, because on several occasions I found myself getting, attacked from all sides by all of the different factions at once, and I'm like, what the hell? What? I just
At
spent
least
like
it
an
wasn't
hour.
hamster skeletons.
I'd spent like an hour previous to that just wandering around and finding nothing. And then all of a sudden I have like 10 robots from hostile factions around me trying to shoot me down. But that seems to come in waves, because every now and then the AI gets bored and you get another round of that. It's like, oh, okay, we're doing this again. But I really don't mind these kinds of games. Though in this particular case, when it comes to Signal of Tölva, I do mind the large empty spaces you need to traverse. And if your surveyor gets blown up, you're basically taken back to the closest spawn point, which is usually like 1,000 of whatever metric units they're using. The best parts are when you have all of those different factions and there's like a big ass robot that attacks everything in sight, and then you have all 3 factions fighting that one big robot, and the moment that big robot is dead, everyone starts shooting at each other. That's fun. That is really fun. But yeah, like Van already hinted at, the shooting, it has very little punch behind it. Basically, if you use the little laser weapon and you can get one that has a long enough range, just use that. It deals enough damage to take down anything. The buildings, there are a couple of buildings in the game, but they're all the same building, just with a slightly different layout in it. And that building is riddled with like little teleporty things that you can only see if you use your scanner, because they're sort of invisible to the naked eye. But yeah, it after like the 3rd or 4th of those buildings, it starts to lose its charm, and you just want to, okay, which one of these teleporty walls will take me to the end? That's all I want to know. Okay.
What did your decahedron say?
Yes. That seems to be like how you make progress. You find those little floaty bits and you scan them. And once you do, you go back to one of the bunkers, you go to the computer, and it says, kudos, you've leveled up. Oh, good. But I am curious to see if there's going to be anything else, because I have like 50% of the map explored. So I just need the other 50%. So I am curious to see where else they go with that. And I still want to play it. So that is a plus in my book. 3 chairs.
Okay, so it's all right. I think that's kind of the conclusion that you can draw here. It's all right.
No, the conclusion that you're both wrong.
I don't know. I don't know, Mr. Outnumbered.
The overwhelmingly positive thing on Steam says differently.
Yeah, I know. It's
listen.
man, being
Ben,
right
Ben can
is a
live in his
struggle,
fantasy worlds.
right?
It's cool because he can be the Hobbit hero that he always dreamed of.
You'll have to tell me what a Hobbit hero is one day, sweetheart. Get us out of here.
All right, coming up next, we got one little bit of hate mail. You thought you could escape the G2A drama. You were wrong.
Well, it's about time we
stab
stab the proverbial knife into this particular thing we call the podcast. And, well, it's the hate mail. It's that chance that you have to let us know just exactly how bad we fucked up this week.
Pretty bad.
And you can do that very easily.
What if we did really good?
Then don't tell us.
Then you can go fuck
don't-
yourself.
Don't encourage us at all.
Don't encourage us, man. Don't you dare.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Pretty much. So, yeah, if you want to get in touch with us because we said something wrong or because we said something really wrong, you can go to LinuxGameCast.com. Just hit the contact button, make sure the show that you've picked is LGC Weekly, and let us know what it is that you think, or if you're a game developer and you'd like to send us keys to play your game, well, just make sure to include 3.
No.
That's all we ask
No.
for.
I'm going to send you 1.
Then you can go fuck yourself again.
Send us 4 so we can do a giveaway. Some good cross promotion.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a multiplayer game and you're listening to this.
Oh, dude, we will test the fuck out of your Linux.
Nobody throw together an online multiplayer live session like we do. It's done. Because we got people that actually play games. It is brilliant. So we got to address the G2 in the A.
Yeah,
yes.
this is from Carl on Fire. And he says, this G2A thing, this looks more like devs than whining about lost revenue in exchange for free publicity. How many indie games or indie devs have signed on with Epic and their exclusives? Where did the keys come from in the first place? Hard to care. This reads like a Donald Trump tweet. So
you read Donald Trump treats, yes. TIL.
I do. They're delicious. They taste like illiteracy. So here's the thing. Epic has nothing to do with G2A at all. Nothing. These are entirely separate issues. Number one is you have a bunch of credit card scammers buying games, reselling them to these gray market guys, and then causing developers to lose money on sales that they don't even get to see any sort of profit off of.
Yep.
And the other is a large studio throwing their monetary weight around to give devs money. The fact that indie devs and money is involved is the only thing that these two things have in common. And yeah, you shouldn't shop at G2A because it hurts the freaking indie gaming scene. It's true.
It does.
Every sale for these small teams counts. A lot of these guys are just paying rent with the proceeds from their game. And guys like G2A take advantage of business practices and the way that, credit card companies are set up to, actually go after faulty transactions. They found a loophole. They found a way to profit at the expense of the people making the content that you want to consume. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But didn't a developer earlier, was it this week? Who was it that came and was like, pirate our stuff before you buy it off G2A?
There were a bunch of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of developers
at least it doesn't
jumped on
cost
that.
them. Yeah. Jim Sterling did a video, Pedro's boyfriend.
So it's about credit card chargebacks.
Yes, because credit card companies will then go after the devs rather than the store because, like Jordan said, G2A found themselves a really nice little loophole to sit in, and basically they're devoid of any and all fiscal or financial responsibility. It's really bad. Like, gray market key resellers are sketchy at the best of times, but there are a few legitimate ones out there, like Green Man Gaming, Instant Gaming. There's
I mean, so here's the thing though, it's legitimate until we discover that they've been engaging in this practice too, right? It's like the Volkswagen thing. Everyone was doing the freaking engine testing, doping, whatever, but they were the first to get caught.
In preparation for this, I watched Jim Sterling, his video on this, because I was like, hey, what the fuck? Because I remember the news story, but I thought it was just one indie developer. But it was G2 was saying, this thing's not happening, but they could show, like, with their sales, if somebody walks in and buys 100 or 200 keys at one time, obviously something's fucking up if the game is not on sale, or if it's 13% off or something like that. That should throw a flag not to be sold. That's something G2A could fucking do. And again, what I do know about G2A is they have a thing, what is it called? Like buyer protection.
Yeah, it's a G2A shield or something like that.
That, that should make you think about, like, wait a minute. So they're not even sure if this is legit.
Yeah, and it's basically, if you buy that, again, from the Jim Sterling videos, if you buy that protection, you are always guaranteed to say, if you bought a key that was bought with a stolen credit card number, you will get either another key or a refund if they don't have any more available. So yeah, they know full well that they're selling stolen shit. Yeah, and just don't buy shit from G2A because they know full well that they're selling stolen goods and they keep doing it. So just do not.
Jordan?
I have a thing to say, but I can wait until you're done.
Okay, I was going to say, what if we roll it to, like, I'm guessing, are we primarily talking about Steam keys, right? Maybe?
In this case, yes.
For the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I know from the developer side, I'm not really speaking out of school, it's really hard to, like, track, like, because if, as a developer, if you are going to put up, like, a batch of keys for sale or something like that, good tools to, like, revoke those keys really don't fucking exist for the developer on Steam.
Right.
That could be handy if that gets sorted, if, so the developer could kill the account, or, if somebody bought 100 keys, you're like, okay, this block gone when you get the charge back.
I think it's an issue of financial penalty, though, because Steam doesn't really receive a financial penalty because they don't charge for the key generation.
They don't. And I understand why the developer wouldn't want to do it, because then you get all the negative feedback from the people who bought through G2A.
Exactly, right? Like, they're how you discourage this behavior is to make it not profitable to do this. And unfortunately, I don't think anyone
that will never happen, though. There will always be people that will take the risk.
Exactly. And I from the credit cards company's perspective, they don't care because they're still making money. From G2A's perspective, they don't care because they're still making money. Steam doesn't give a shit because they're not affected by this in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't affect their metrics or anything like this. The only ones who are suffering are the developers. And again, they are the ones who are producing the content that you wish to consume. And by engaging in market practices that harm them, all you're doing is creating an environment where there will be less games. And I think that's a bad thing.
As cummy as Epic is in the way that they're doing business right now, they are doing so by helping the developers. They will say to the developers, you will get this much money guaranteed for the first year.
Right.
So developers are going, oh, hell yeah, gimme.
The clear difference is that at least Epic is injecting cash while G2A is removing cash. That is the fundamental difference here that you need to understand. And why these two things should not be mentioned in the same breath.
You got to rock on with it. I mean, yeah, I don't think we should ever conflate that. And, supporting indie everything, even little dog and pony show we do. I mean, it's important not to, like, lose anything. And if you're paying your rent as a developer, a game developer, because can you imagine? I'm just trying to think from their perspective of, like, oh, wow, somebody bought, 70 or 80 copies of my game. You got to imagine nowadays in 2019, that's just dread. You're like, yeah.
Oh God, when am I going to get the charge
right?
back?
Or can you imagine being a new developer? Then unfortunately, this would be your own fault, spending money before it was in the bank. That could be a nasty situation.
Indeed. So the moral of the story: G2A, Epic, nothing alike. Don't conflate the two. Bad.
Ladies and gentlemen. On that bombshell, I think it is probably time to cue the music. You can always find us around. Almost did it, bitches, but I didn't. I stopped myself. 8:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time.
Ooh.
That went wrong.
What did you do? If you can hear me, Internet, I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me on the Internet at The Burning Fool on Twitter. Plus, no, there's no more Google Plus. At Frojo at mass.linuxgamecast.com. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Okay, and before that, there was Ven. You can find him at Venstone on Twitter or at Ven in mass.linuxgamecast.com. And I am Peter Mateos. You can find me at unaccounted4 on Twitter. So just use Twitter. It's easy enough. And now I am wondering, will Ven be able to figure out what the hell happened to his microphone audio?
We're getting the wrap that shit up noise. We gotta wrap it up.
All right, it's the credits.
It's the crazy train. We gotta thank all the lovely executive producers who are making this possible with all their insane monetary donations. Oh my god! If we could bring up the money penguin right now, we would. Gotta thank the penguins. Yeah, Arthuryn, Miss Fox Dog, Empty, The Atomic Ass, MikeG, Barbramp, Drummer 7, Aldius, Haplo, MacGeek, So Sexy, and we got the rest of you producers, Jupiter Broadcasting, Lutris, Renault Paid, Paul Trugills, Admiral JT, North Ranger,
Texas, Vlonir, David P, Nick, Joe Angel, Steve,
Jolly,
Douglas,
Massivoni, Luke W, Christopher C, Zoe, Massivoni, Nicole, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap, Odung, Sorceress, and our newest one, J-Girl. Big ups to J-Girl. And of course, people who keep buying us hardware. MikeG buying us all the hardware. Look at those beautiful fuck buddies. Don't you just want to bend them over your knee and give them a nice stroke on the head because they're good people?
Don't you just want to fuck our buddies?
Wow, Pedro. Frank, save me from the sexual deviant. Save me, please. Fuck.
No, Frank is
He left
having
me
none
alone.
of that.
Get away from me, Pedro.
Frank.
No.
Bye, everyone. I'm sure Van's voice will return at some point. That's why everyone's here, let's be honest. Bye.
Bye.
Five dudes.